needs, like what we take for granted, which is full service electricity.
Here's a whole ecosystem that knows how to churn out companies that have innovative ideas that could literally change the world, that meet both the development and the climate objectives.
Knowledge sharing as well as leveraging resources between places like Berkeley, Stanford, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, the entire sort of investment ecosystem here, and Africa, because with Africa you have such a great potential with entrepreneurship driven by need.
And the people who are going to deliver it are what we call entrepreneurs, basically small businesses that will grow large, and some of them will be hardware and tech vendors, and some of them will be deployers and installers, and some of them will be financiers and operations and maintenances. And all of those businesses are opportunities for both Africans to solve African problems and for Americans to benefit by selling into that market.
There's been a lot of effort on the part of the U.S. to expand into Africa and African markets. But one of the challenges we find is navigating, and Power Africa gives access to that, help navigate. It does help give you the exposure to the partners that you need in order to make an impact.
I think it's exciting to find companies that have new technologies and a lot to offer the developing world and get them connected to markets and opportunities and help them get the support that they need from Power Africa and the interagency partners and our other partners and the networks that we open up for them.
It's very important because it enables both parties really meet and kind of synergize, kind of talk about things, and Nigeria, just like we're doing now, will be able to bring to their knowledge much more the kind of things we need, the kind of things that impact our environment. They can also model things after what we really need.
There's an opportunity to also have this kind of sharing across disciplines, so not just US to Africa, but Africa to US as well. But if we're learning from the US's experience, they actually started off as a completely decentralized system, right? And then over time, we slowly started building to this centralized system. We made it a lot more reliable. And now we're kind of going back to this decentralized system with these microgrids, right? We're deploying a lot for reliability purposes.
I think Africa is fertile ground that can actually adapt and accelerate very quickly, but there has to be multiple areas that coordinate together. And I think a part of this program, is making sure that all those players come together so that the adaptation from the Western world, is easily implemented here, but developing a solution that works for Africa, and then that could be scaled very quickly.
We believe in the nations of Africa, in the continent-wide spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation.
The African continent is home to many of the fastest-growing economies in the world, with the rapidly expanding middle class, a young, diverse workforce, urbanizing populations, and endless opportunities.
One of the most important elements of it to me is to shift the narrative in the way that the West engages with Africa writ large. For far too long, it has been seen as a region filled with problems and few opportunities. And I think that we should be shifting that to look at it as a region that does have challenges, but is also filled with opportunities.
Prosper Africa brings together the power of 17 U.S. government agencies and market experts to identify investments, secure deals, and create new trade pathways between the nations of Africa and the United States.
I'm a huge fan of Prosper Africa. I've seen what it can do and how it can help companies like Cisco and how engaged the people on the ground are. They also bring a very clear and objective view of what their role is going to be, what their expectations from Cisco are.
We're a one-stop shop, so companies don't have to waste valuable resources navigating Washington to do business in the United States and across the African continent.
Working with Prosper Africa is so easy because there's a deal room and we're able to present a pitch. And Prosper Africa basically stands as an intermediary between us and investors and businesses that could be interested and help bridge the gap. So it actually ends up being easier for us than to spend the effort chasing individual investors sort of across the US.
Through Prosper Africa, the US government has helped close hundreds of deals, generating billions in new exports and investments. And the prospects for future growth and continued shared prosperity are as large and as vibrant as the continent itself.
I used Prosper Africa's support to identify the appropriate funders for our organization.
Prosper Africa can give us that introduction. They can give us the credibility. They can help us validate us as being good actors. And that's the important thing.
Being able to use this Prosper Africa platform allows us to reach the right investors, that allows us to grow and scale our business to the rest of the emerging markets.
Working hand in hand with the private sector, African governments, Prosper Africa strengthens two-way trade and investment, supporting thousands of jobs for African and American workers.
We must all work together to advance our shared vision of a better future, a future of growing trade and investment that advances prosperity for all our nations.
Honorable Minister Nancy Tembo, Foreign Minister of Affairs of the Republic of Malawi. Honorable Minister Simplex Chiyola Banda, Minister of Trade and Industry for the Republic of Malawi. Her Excellency Justice Chombo, Malawi Ambassador to the United States of America. Secretary of Trade and Industry, Madam Christina Zekeyo. CEO Paul, CEO of Malawi Investment and Trade Center, and all other protocols respected. Good morning and good afternoon out there in Malawi, and welcome everyone for attending our webinar today on new opportunities of trade and investment in the Republic of Malawi. Organized in partnership with the government of Malawi, Malawi Investment and Trade Center, Embassy of the Republic of Malawi, United States, and the Minnesota District Export Council. We have brought all these entities together to connect and explore new opportunities for US companies and African diaspora businesses that are really interested in doing business in Malawi. This will create jobs for all African diaspora, not only in the United States of America, but also for the people of Malawi. Following this seminar, Minnesota Africans United will be leading a trade mission for US firms and African diaspora businesses and companies to Malawi in October to explore and learn from our international peers and start joint ventures. We want to begin by thanking Prosper Africa, Power Africa, and the World Fair Bid Committee Educational Fund for their sponsorship and support for making this possible. My name is Basila Joe. I am the President and Chief Executive Officer for Minnesota Africans United, also known as MAU. We were founded in 2017 by leaders that came from 26 African nations, and we have been growing since then. We are a coalition of state and regional organization covering the Midwest state of Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, North Dakota, and South Dakota. We are also a coordinating arm that work to bring together all the African diaspora coming from 55 African nations, representing over 400,000 immigrants in our state, working hard day in, day out to make sure we bring the US export to Minnesota in 2027. Today, I'm very, very excited on behalf of the African Diaspora United States of America to welcome our Honorable Minister and other keynote speaker, Honorable Simplice, the Minister of Trade of the Republic of Malawi, Honorable Ambassador Chombo, Ambassador of the Republic of Malawi in the US, Jeremy Faber, Private Sector Engagement at Prosper Africa, Mr. Creed Troy, Transaction Liaison, Power Africa in Washington, D.C., and other key leaders who will provide an overview of trade and investment opportunities in Malawi in terms of investments, sales, and other related topics that are deemed very, very significant and important. Malawi is a border area between the regions of East Africa and Southern Africa. And Minnesota is the most important part of the United States for people from East Africa. We have the largest amongst the Somalis and Kenyan community, including businesses and government officials, including the first refugee from Africa to be elected to United States Congress. You may begin to wonder how we got to be introduced to Malawi and how we are so proud about Malawi and all the wonderful opportunities that are there in Malawi. During my term serving on the board of the African Diaspora Development Institute, also known as ADDI, which was founded by Ambassador Adikana Chomorikwa, I met a distinguished professor from Malawi. Her name is Professor Lily. She was serving on that board with me, and we started to talk about Malawi, and we started to learn about each other. And I became so much interested, and we started to look at the ties that actually exist between the United States, between our great state of Minnesota with Malawi. And then I found out one of our allies, Books for Africa, was actually working in Malawi, which is a nonprofit that supplies books to all the 54 African countries on the continent. I am also serving as a governing board member of Bountyfield International, which is a Minnesota-based organization. And they had an office in Malawi. This is what really inspired me to lead one of my board members to travel to Malawi. But before that happened, we knew we had to build relationships on the ground in Malawi and here in the United States of America. So we met with the Minnesota Trade Office. We met with members of Bountyfield International. We met with Prosper Africa. We met with Global Minnesota. We created a relationship with the U.S. Department of Commerce, had meetings with the U.S. Embassy in Malawi. And all while we were doing so was to make sure that we learn about UX import requirements and opportunities in getting U.S. agricultural machineries as tractors, bulldozer, and other processing plants and financial investment to Malawi. And we here in Minnesota, we are also a leader in the agricultural issue. We are home to the world's largest agricultural companies, including Cargill, General Mills, and many more, such as Lanolix. We here in Minnesota have also been blessed to have a well-established community of African diaspora in Minnesota, who have also become educated in the USA, have started family and built homes, started and sustained their small businesses, and they have impacted the economy of the United States. There is no any other better time for all the African diaspora communities, particularly the Malawians, to connect back to their home countries and start joint ventures. When we attended the US African Leaders Summit, we wanted to take this relationship a little bit further. We met with the Malawian delegation. We also attended the United Nations General Assembly in New York. We also met with the Malawian delegation. This webinar today is the outcome and the product of those discussions. Thank you, our Honorable Ambassador Chombo, for making this happen. I will not take much time, but I would like to welcome our board secretary, also the chair of the World's Fair Bid Committee Educational Fund, Mr. Mark Ritchie, to offer a few remarks and then introduce the Malawi ambassador to the United States. Over to you, Mark Ritchie.
Thank you, Basil, and thank you so much to all who've gathered from around the world for today's webinar. I've had the privilege of serving on the board for Minnesota Africans United, but also being a partner with Minnesota African United on over a dozen webinars linking Minnesota directly with different countries on the African continent, but also with trade missions, with conferences. So today is the next, and one that we've greatly anticipated, and we're very excited to be putting together this webinar today. We'll be doing more of these, but we'll have some special symposiums. We'll be talking about that a little bit later today. And then Basil mentioned the trade delegation, the in-person trade delegation coming up in the fall. But the real force and the real energy that helped lift today and has been crucial to our connections is our opening speaker, Her Excellency Ambassador Chombo, the ambassador of Malawi to the United States of America, based there in Washington, D.C. Your Excellency, thank you so much for being with us today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Basil. We want to thank God for this opportunity to coordinate this webinar, very, very important webinar, which we believe is not just a webinar, but it is going to be one that will deliver results in Malawi. We want to believe that this webinar has come at a very right time, and I want to recognize the presence of Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Nancy Tembo, MP, and Minister of Trade, Simplex Tichola, who are both here, and the others that are also here from MITC, from Trade, from Jeremy Faber, and all those we've been working with. The Malawians, both here and at home, and all business people. We want to be, to express our excitement at being here today, because we know that this is going to be a game changer for Malawi. Thank you so much for working with us, Basil, Jeremy, for the efforts that you have made, for showing us the way to do business. We want to thank you also for being the coordinating team here. We want to thank the ambassadors from other countries that are here. And we just want to say that together we are learning a lot. Want to say thank you also even to the embassy staff that has been working hard on the ground to make sure that we have these connections. The Malawi embassy here in the US is like a bridge that is coordinating the efforts that are being put in place by the Minnesota African United Businesses, Prosper Africa, Power Africa, and all the other groups that are going to do businesses in Malawi. This comes at a very, very important time because we've just had the cyclone Freddy, which has wiped away a lot of our infrastructure. It has brought down what people were building up as businesses. It has killed lives, and we just want to say that you're coming up with this webinar and you're coming up with the connections for us to make for the businesses to go to Malawi are very, very important. We realize that there's a lot that can be done, but it will take both parties working together. And so as the embassy, we want to say that we are here to make sure that things happen and that we will be held accountable. Whatever does not happen in Malawi, we want to say that we are here to be answerable to that. And so we want to say that the key deliverable is to see things happening, not just in Malawi, but also here. We want to see trade happening between Malawi and the US. We want to see lives of people changing. We want to see people building businesses that are viable, that will change Malawi. Malawi and Minnesota have got quite a number in common, both agriculture, and when you have that agriculture experience, take it to Malawi. We want to see agriculture coming up. We want to see commercialization of agriculture. We want to see tourism booming. And if you bring experiences from here, because Minnesota has got lakes, fresh lakes, Malawi also has got a lake, which can be turned into a money-making venture. We can have boats, we can have, yachts there, doing businesses. We want to see trade booming in Malawi as a result of this webinar. And so we would ask all those companies that are here that are interested in doing business to please make sure that you connect. We are looking at energy. We are looking at production of things, manufacturing. Malawi is very, very ripe, value adding from agriculture. What can we do together? Business that will boom, business that will help the US to go up, businesses that people even here in the US can benefit from because they'll connect with Malawi. And so we see this as a very important connection in this particular time. We ask you to connect and to bring your businesses to Malawi so that we can do that business together. Mrs. Zakeo was here when we discussed with Prosper Africa, and she is on the ground to help us to see that what we have been discussing is really going to happen. We are thankful that the Minister himself of Trade is also here and is going to speak about these opportunities, how we can further bring together businesses. We are looking at improving lives in Malawi. We are looking at bringing resources. We are looking at how training can help the Malawians, how mentoring, how resource building can help the Malawians to build their lives again. And so as an embassy, we want to say that we have a website. Post your comments there, post what you want to do there. Tandy, who is here on the line, will give us the website so that people can begin to connect with us for this very important business that we want to do. America, yes, we want to take business to Malawi, but we also want to take Malawi into America so that together we can do it, we can have a flow of business that is going to benefit both worlds, not just one part, but to connect us. We want to see how the American market looks at quality, looks at quantity, looks at market. All that is going to depend on what comes from here to Malawi, because we want this webinar not just to be a webinar, but we want it to be translated into deliverable projects that are going to change the market. And so with the limited time that I have, I just want to say that thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Thank you that we are connecting and will continue to connect, to work with Basil, to work with Jeremy, to make sure that things are really happening. And we want to encourage all the business people, the diaspora especially, that please, this is the time for you to invest in Malawi. This is the time that you can take your businesses to Malawi, and they are going to be coordinated. They are going to be beneficial for you, even as you stay here in the United States. Thank you so much, Mark, for this opportunity to speak and to just open the floor for what is a great opportunity today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. And today's opportunity will result not only in some deals over in the chat room, and I can see people already really participating dramatically, but also in future events, including the trade mission. And we will be announcing very soon a partnership with the Development Center at the OECD in Paris for a symposium on specifically the impact of diaspora-led two-way street trade and investment. Will come up on Africa Day on May 25th. So that'll be broadcast, it'll be there, but more details to follow. So we're honored today to have Her Excellency, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Nancy Tembo, to present our opening keynote. Your Excellency, please take the floor.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, well, good afternoon to all participants. Good evening, good morning. And just to join you in welcoming everybody to this virtual business forum on investment and trade opportunities in Malawi. It is a pleasure for me to participate in this webinar. Let me take particular cognizance of the United States potential investors, the Malawi diaspora, and representatives of private sector who have joined this webinar. This forum provides us a unique opportunity to explore investment and trade prospects that Malawi has to offer. Malawi is a country with immense trade investment potential, with conducive environment for investment, which the Malawi government is committed to improving. This forum also provides to Malawian business people what opportunities exist in the United States of America, how we can take advantage of those opportunities, and if there's any challenges, how we can work around those challenges. Various sectors in Malawi are working tirelessly to ensure a favorable business climate for investors, streamlining regulations and procedures that facilitate trade and investment in Malawi in order to improve our competitiveness. I would like to take advantage of this opportunity to appreciate our friend, the United States, for interest in Malawi and your willingness to explore these investment opportunities in our country. We believe that our strong relationship with the United States of America can be further strengthened through increased trade and investment. I am pleased to note that the presence of the Malawi diaspora in this meeting. We appreciate the importance of your role as our ambassadors and your desire to contribute to the development of Malawi. We encourage you to explore the opportunities that exist and to consider investing in your home country. I would also like to acknowledge the private sector that have investments in Malawi. Your contributions have helped us to build a potentially strong economy and ensure access to certain goods and services to the Malawian people. Our government remains committed to creating an environment that is conducive to investment and trade in order to foster growth and development. We hope that this webinar will provide us with valuable information that helps you and us make informed trade and investment decisions. Once again, I would like to thank all that have taken an interest to listen in, to participate, but also to share valuable ideas that can boost the economy of this country. Like the ambassador said, we have gone through a very difficult period in the last month or so. We've had a cyclone that has devastated most of the southern part of Malawi. We need to rebuild, we need to reconstruct. But like they say, in every disaster, there is an opportunity. And it is my belief that in this disaster, as we reconstruct, opportunities will arise that we can all take advantage, both within and without. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and your invitation is so warm and welcoming, but also your reminder that we can be hit by strong winds and terrible storms, and we will be pushed backwards. But if coming together, we can help each other, then we can build stronger, we can build better, we can build for the future. And your leadership is so appreciated in this respect. This opportunity today to hear what some of those specific opportunities might be. You mentioned we're both really proud regions with our lakes and our tourism. We have mining, we have agriculture, we have manufacturing, we have many things in common, but we also have things that we do differently that can help us be stronger together. And to talk about that today, we are really honored to have Excellency Simplexiato Banda, Minister of Trade and Industry, present to give us information about those specific opportunities and those potential partnership locations. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, am I audible enough?
Yes, very well.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon. Allow me, before I make my remarks, to recognize the presence of Honorable Nase Tembo, Minister responsible for Foreign Affairs, but also Justice Esime Chombo, our ambassador in the US, Mark Leach yourself, and also Jeremy Feber, and then Malawi, Minnesota, or Malawi Africans, is it Minnesota Africans United? I am honored and delighted to join you all today in this trade and investment webinar between Malawi and the USA aimed at exploring new opportunities for US companies to do business in Malawi. Let me on the onset extend my sincere appreciation to the Minnesota Africans United, who in collaboration with the Odds Fair Bid Committee, Education Fund, Prosper Africa, the Minnesota Export District Council, and the Embassy of the Republic of Malawi in Washington for organizing this event. That presents a unique opportunity to discuss ways of deepening trade and investment ties between our countries. It is pleasing to note that this webinar is coming following Malawi's participation at the US-Africa Leaders Summit in December, as alluded to by Esime Chombo, where His Excellency the State President, Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera, was in attendance. And by the way, I was also in America at that particular time for the same event. I am here to share with you on two main parameters which are critical in the pursuit of trade and investment facilitation. These are the business regulatory framework and business opportunities prevailing in this country. The country's long-term vision is guided by Malawi Agenda 2063, whose target is for Malawi to become an inclusively wealthy and self-reliant industrialized upper middle-income country by 2063. This therefore sets the pace for proper sustainable regulatory framework. Malawi government recognizes that investment is an important element to any functioning economy. It is in this regard that the government has been undertaking business reforms to ensure that the business environment is conducive for investment and trade by reviewing economic laws and removing obstacles that stood in the way of productive investment. With this, we have created a conducive business regulatory environment supported by a sound legal framework. The government of Malawi has created a one-stop service center in the Malawi Investment and Trade Center, MITC, which is an arm of my ministry, to facilitate and support investors under one roof with business registration, business permits, licensing, access to land, access to incentives, and many other services that facilitate business establishments. Malawi offers many incentives, including tax holidays of up to 10 years for processing and power generation projects, just to ensure that businesses are supported to grow. This is government commitment to support and grow investments, particularly in the energy sector. Regionally, Malawi is a member to a number of regional economic communities, including SADC, COMESA, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. These regional integration efforts provide a gateway to the wider market. You invest in Malawi, you enjoy the whole African market. So this is an opportunity that when you invest in Malawi, you'll have access to the whole African market. When it comes to business opportunities existing in Malawi, there are numerous in various sectors, including agriculture, energy, mining, tourism, transport, manufacturing, ICT, to mention but a few, just as Honorable Nase Tembo did mention. The mere fact that the composition of Malawi exports are predominantly commodities such as oil seeds, legumes, pigeon peas, macadamia nuts, tobacco, tea, coffee, rice, and precious stones. This offers an opportunity for investments in agro-processing and value addition in the value chains. This is a great opportunity that exists. The Malawi government has embarked on large-scale farming through establishment of mega farms for various value chains where production, value-adding processing, and marketing will be done sequentially at one place. This is an exciting opportunity for you to come and invest in this country. We have inadequate power supply in Malawi. The country is therefore offering a number of investment opportunities in power generation, transmission and distribution of hydro, solar, biofuels, and wind to meet the growing national and regional energy demands. The energy sector in Malawi allows the participation of independent power producers. The power blackouts that were being experienced is an opportunity for you to come to Malawi and invest in this noble sector. This is the sector where Power Africa fits very well, as your mandate is to increase energy access and to end energy poverty in sub-Saharan Africa, where you intend to add at least 30,000 megawatts of cleaner and more reliable electricity generation capacity. In mining, Malawi has known deposits of coal, niobium, limestone, heavy mineral sands, uranium, as I did mention, rare earth minerals, silica sands, and pink granite, amongst others. And currently, in one of the country areas in Kasia, we've also just discovered rutile. To assist potential investors and prospectors, an airborne geophysical mineral survey revealed substantial quantities of these commodities. This is a great and untapped opportunity still existing in Malawi up to date. When it comes to tourism, there are viable investment opportunities in tourism industry, especially in eco and cultural tourism. Malawi is endowed with large bodies of fresh water and beautiful sand beaches, breathtaking geographical sceneries. Accelerating mountain views and rich natural forests and wildlife, as well as friendly and culturally rich people in a very peaceful nation. We have unique mountain tourism potentials with unexplored caves in Zomba and Mulanje Mountains and peak ski sceneries in the Nyika Mountains, offering some of the highest peaks in East and Southern Africa. We have very attractive areas for hot air balloon tours in the lower plains These elements provide perfect conditions for tourists in search of unique adventures. This is yet another great opportunity. Malawi, being a land-linked country located about 1,000 kilometers from nearest seaport to the Indian Ocean, the geographical position offers enormous opportunity in transportation systems. All modes of transport are catalysts to reducing the transport costs, which are exorbitant in the production processes. Investments in road networks, railway lines, and air are encouraged, and the opportunity is open up to date. The government of Malawi recognizes that the diaspora is an important source of foreign investment, and the government is keen to harness the potential of the diaspora as you have a unique advantage in accessing the investment opportunities found in Africa and in particular Malawi. This is where Minnesota Africans United, MAU, becomes handy to mobilize your membership to seize the opportunity gaps in education, healthcare, the economy, and employment. Let me assure all the potential investors planning to invest in Malawi that your investment in Malawi is very much secure. Malawi is a signatory of the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MIGA, of the World Bank, and also a signatory to the Convention of Settlement of Investment Disputes. It is also a member of Africa Trade Insurance Agency, ATI, a World Bank-supported initiative aimed at granting investment in Africa. In addition, the legal system in Malawi is just very, very effective. I repeat, the time to invest in Malawi is now. To further elaborate on the reasons why this is the time to invest in Malawi, let me say this. 80% of our population is under age of 35 years. This means you have access to trainable, cost-effective human capital. Malawi is one of the most politically stable countries in the region with peace-loving population. Come to Malawi for value of your investments. I assure you, you'll never regret. This is where I will call upon Prosper Africa, being an initiative that leverages on the services and resources of 17 US government agencies to substantially increase a two-way trade and investment between the United States and Africa. I would implore on Prosper Africa to mobilize services and resources for across the US government to empower businesses and investors with market insights, deal support, and financing opportunities by linking African countries with new buyers, suppliers, and investment opportunities across all sectors and among all types of businesses. In conclusion, I believe that by working together, we can unlock the full potential of our economic partnership. I urge US business or businesses to consider investing in Malawi. And I assure you that the government of Malawi will provide the necessary support to ensure a successful investment. Let us continue exploring new opportunities for trade and investment and build a strong and mutually beneficial relationship between our two countries. Finally, once again, allow me to express my appreciation to the organizers of this webinar for providing this platform for us to engage on trade and investment issues. I am confident, and very confident, that the discussions we are going to have today will yield positive results and help us build a stronger economic ties between our two countries. And before I forget, during the Leaders Summit, my peers, Excellency Chombo, agreed with Minnesota United for a trade mission to Malawi before the end of the year. I look forward to the fruition of this mission that will concretize the different deals we'll have embarked on from today. Once again, thank you very much for this. And I wish to look forward to seeing you in Malawi. This is the home heart of Africa. And we believe that when you come and invest in this country, it is worthwhile. And thank you very much indeed.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for giving us that strong overview of opportunities, but also that welcome and that invitation for two-way street and for the partnerships that we can all connect. And your vision of being a land-linked nation connecting regions and opportunities is something that is so important to all of us trying to think into the future. And I can see over in the chat room that people are now talking about what are specifics and what are some of those things that are available and ways, and some small and large connections are being made. We're very fortunate to have today as our next speaker, the Secretary for Trade Ministry and Trade and Industry to talk about the trade and investment promotion policy. Ms. Christina Zekejo was in the United States as part of the summit and some of these discussions. We're just thrilled to have your participation today. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mark Ritchie, for giving me the floor this afternoon. And good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. And let me recognize the presence of the Honorable Ministers of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Nancy Tembo, MP, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and also the Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Simplex Chichola Banda, MP. I recognize the Excellency Ambassador in Washington, Excellency Chombo. I recognize Mr. Basil. We met in the US, and also Jerome. I think I'm happy for the meetings that we had. Indeed, for trade and investment to be practical in Malawi, we have a ministry that is responsible for that. And I'm very happy to indicate that, to facilitate such, the Ministry of Trade and Industry is responsible for the development of different policies. And I'm happy that I've been given the opportunity to make such a presentation. I hope I will be helped in terms of beaming the presentation. Can Tandy help me do that?
We're bringing up now the slides. Tokan, here we go.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Maybe if we could go to the next slide on the outline. Yeah, so my presentation, I will do the introduction, and then I'll introduce our national trade policy, and also go to the national investment policy, and thereafter I'm going to conclude. Next. Let me indicate that I think the key challenge at the moment for Malawi is the unsustainable trade deficit due to mainly to narrow productive base, and also the weak domestic and international trade linkages and systems. And in view of this, we've developed the national trade policy that provides for a framework for the formulation, implementation, and coordination of trade-related policies. And as Malawi, we also recognize on the importance of the private investment in also fostering economic growth and development. And as such, we've also developed the national investment policy that provides guidance on how the country would ensure coherence and consistency in investment promotion, facilitation, as well as retention. Next. It is important to recognize that the purpose of the policy, especially the trade policy, is to address the weak linkages between trade and the overall development objective, as well as the binding constraints that have hindered Malawi's ability to take full advantage of the existing as well as emerging market access opportunities. So our trade policy, it has a goal, which is to make Malawi a globally competitive export-oriented economy, generating higher and sustainable livelihoods through trade that also recognizes the role of micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as the vulnerable groups. And in developing our policy, we also had to come up with the policy outcomes, and they include the importance of diversifying our export markets. And we're also looking at the diversified and increased export trade as well as the domestic trade. And the third issue relates to improved stability of export revenues and also increased competitiveness in the domestic market. And lastly, increased pro-poor impact of trade, because I think as I have indicated, you know, we are also looking at how do we help our micro, small, and medium enterprises, including those that are vulnerable. So that's why it is important that, you know, we have included, you know, this in our policy outcomes. And next. And our trade policy, it has some objectives. And let me mention that the first one includes the importance of eliminating external and domestic policy trade barriers to trade, because usually when you're dealing with domestic, including international trade, there are also issues relating to barriers to trade. So we believe that those are very crucial issues, and we thought that that was one of the major objectives which we need to deal with using the policy. And secondly, we are also looking at reducing the cost of doing business as well as trade. And also thirdly, the need to strengthen the linkages between domestic and international trade. I think I wish to mention that, as a country, and we are in the global village, and we don't believe in trading alone domestically, but we also believe in international trade. And mostly we are looking at, the agreements that we have at bilateral, regional, as well as at the multilateral level. And fourthly, the policy provides support and certainty for traders in the external and domestic market, and also the need to reduce barriers to movement of service providers and high-skilled immigrants. I think I need to expand on this one. What we are saying is the concentration is not only on trade in goods, but we are also looking at the importance of trade in services. And as such, as a ministry, what we have done now is to ensure that, we have broken down our Department of Trade into two sections. We have a department that is responsible for trade in goods and another one responsible for trade in services. We've done this because we've seen that services also provides, a substantial amount of, the support in terms of the growth of the GDP. So services trade is also crucial. And thirdly is to facilitate cross-border market access for micro, small, and medium enterprises. What we are saying in here is that, there's a lot of a cross-border trade that is taking place between ourselves and our neighboring countries. So what we are saying is that we have come up with specific frameworks. In this case, we are talking of frameworks such as simplified trade regimes, where we have negotiated specific trade arrangements for our small and medium enterprises with countries such as Zambia, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and now we are also negotiating with Mozambique and Tanzania. So we believe that this policy is crucial also to support our small and medium enterprises in this area. And in terms of the priority areas, let me indicate that the priority is on market access for our exports, and also the need to improve our business operating environment. And also, we are also looking at the narrow productive base, where we are saying we need to, invest a lot, including skills development and a lot of capacity building. And the other area is on promoting and reducing entry costs to the pro-poor trade. And lastly, trade mainstreaming and support. So trade mainstreaming is very crucial at the moment, because for trade to move, I think you rely on so many other very important institutions at the national level. So in this case, what we have done is to ensure that we mainstream trade into our national development strategies, and this, we believe, is also another very important area. Next. Coming to the national investment policy, I also need to indicate that, as a country, we have also recognized on the importance of the private sector investment in driving economic growth and sustainable development. As such, we've come up with a policy that seeks to consolidate existing efforts that are aimed at promoting and attracting both foreign and local investment as a prerequisite to the realization of the inclusive economic growth of its aspirations as enshrined in the Malawi 2063. And this policy, it also outlines the clear and specific action areas that should help to boost our investment, as well as ensure continuous improvement on the climate for doing business in Malawi. And let me indicate that in terms of the purpose for this particular policy is there to enhance the investment flows, specifically to the productive sector, through best practice, practical interventions to address the policy and structural bottlenecks that have historically militated against the effective investment promotion, facilitation, as well as the aftercare. I think the key word here should be in the productive sector, because we noticed that I think in terms of production, I think we are not producing enough, we are not processing enough. That's why we need, this policy to address specifically how do we enhance these flows into this specific productive sector. Next. On the goal, what we have done is we are saying our policy is aimed at encouraging as well as enabling sustainable investment that supports inclusive economic growth and diversification in alignment with the objectives of the Malawi 2063 and its 10-year implementation plan for both the public and the private sector. I think what we are saying here is that, once we diversify, once we invest and diversify, we'll definitely see growth in a number of sectors. And with that particular growth, we'll see that, that will have an impact in terms of job creation. And we are all aware in terms of what the Malawi 2063 is saying, and also our 10-year implementation plan. We are talking very much in terms of how do we industrialize, how do we enhance our productive capacity. And we are also looking at the importance of how do we urbanize. So this policy is there to encourage that particular sustainable investments, to support those economic growth areas. On the policy objectives, the first one is to enhance and streamline the investment mobilization, management, and retention procedures, processes, and efforts And secondly, our second objective is to ensure the legal and regulatory and institutional framework for the promotion, facilitation, and retention of investment, and also to enhance efficacy of the incentives regime to make it more predictable, performance-based, as well as guarantee value for money. And lastly, the major objective is to enhance public sector investment in key infrastructure and industries as a catalyst to stimulating sustainable private sector investment and development of a vibrant and sustainable indigenous investment sector. And those are the major objectives of our national investment policy. Next. So in terms of the outcomes, and once we implement this, we envisage a streamlined and coherent investment promotion and facilitation framework. And secondly, we are also looking at an all-inclusive, harmonized, and coordinated approach to investment planning and processes. And thirdly, we are also looking at an enhanced incentives regime that add value and speaks to the development aspirations of our country, as well as an improved access to investment finance as a prerequisite to enhancing domestic investment and enhanced public sector investment as a conduit to spurring private investment. And I'm glad that I think today we have, Prosper Africa that are there. I think that are going to provide us, I think, with more information in terms of how do we access such investment financing. And I'm glad that that is part and parcel of, the policy outcomes. Next. And on policy priority intervention areas, let me indicate that the priority areas for our the policy is investment promotion, facilitation, as well as aftercare. And secondly, we are also looking at the importance of institutional coordination in investment planning and the processes. And thirdly, the development of the incentives framework. And fourthly, we are also looking at the capacity to mobilize investment finance. And fifthly, we are looking at the public sector investment as a conduit to local content in the key productive sectors. And the sixth point is that, we need to have responsible investment. And this is quite crucial, and this is very important. And lastly, bilateral, regional, and multilateral cooperation in investment matters. And those are the 7 major policy priority intervention areas that are going to be undertaken. So probably in conclusion, I wish to indicate that Malawi's trade and investment policies are very critical to our country's economic growth and development. And the policies, and these 2 major policies are there aimed at promoting our exports. And we're also looking at the importance of import substitution. We spoke about the importance of value addition to a number of the products that we produce. And also, how do we increase our competitiveness? And being a land-linked country, we should be looking at how do we become competitive and also attract the necessary foreign direct investment, and also the importance of building our local capacity to invest as well as to produce for the made in Malawi products that will go to anywhere in the world. And as my minister has indicated, as a country, we have an opportunity to export at the bilateral level, at the regional level, and even at the African continental level. We are looking at the importance of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement which is quite crucial, quite important for all of us. But issues such as logistics are very crucial. Issues relating to energy, they are all very important in this regard. So I really want to thank everyone for your attention, and this marks the end of my presentation. Zikomo kwambili for listening.
Madam Secretary, thank you so much. And it's inspiring to see such a clear vision of the future, where you want to take the policy, where you want to go as a society, as a people. And I'm really thrilled that we're able to have this webinar today where we can begin to put our different visions together to build together that real future for ourselves and for our children and for others. One of the key partners on this side of the South Atlantic is Power Africa. We saw a little video early in the program. I'm really grateful that Chris Troy, the transaction liaison for Power Africa, could be here with us today. Chris, the floor is yours.
Chris is not in yet, Mark.
Chris, we'll be very grateful to plug you in as soon as you are back on the screen. But our next opportunity will be the opportunity to hear from the Chief Executive Officer for the Malawi Investment and Trade Center. Paul Kwingler is the CEO and has been thinking about the practicality of taking these policies and promotion incentives and promotion regulations and really making those business deals. It's been exciting to watch deals being created and talked about and examined over in the chat room. CEO Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I hope the organizers can help me have the facility of sharing the screen. But before that, let me actually say good morning to all in the US and good afternoon for those in Malawi. Let me recognize before I go on to my presentation or before I start sharing, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Nancy Tembo, and Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Simplex Tichola Banda. Let me also recognize Her Excellency, Malawian Ambassador to the US, Madam Esme Jombo, and all protocols observed. Let me thank Minnesota Africans United for organizing this. Am I able now to share the screen? Oh, okay, not yet. My presentation, as I've been given the
Here is the screen.
Oh, yes. Okay. I thought I would share it from here, but that's fine because it's easier. Is it okay just to share me that the powers to share the screen?
Procon, can you?
Yes, let me try. It's still showing I'm disabled to share the screen. Let me try again.
Yeah, you should have the power to share.
I have? No, I don't have yet.
Okay, let me see what's going on.
Okay. But if it's having challenges, maybe you can share from there. It's still not giving me the power to share.
You should be able to do that.
Oh, yes, I've got it now. Thank you. Just a second. Can you see my screen? I hope you can.
Perfectly, thank you.
Okay. Let me just second. Let me just play.
Beginning.
Put it on full screen. Okay.
Yeah.
My presentation will be in parts. Basically, for the first part, it's an overview of investment opportunities. And the second part talks about specific investment opportunities that I've singled out among the many opportunities that you can have in Malawi. And the last part looks at the export trade opportunities. But as part of the overview, Malawi has quite a number of, I just wanted to have people have an idea of Malawi, the opportunities that are there. The population is about 20 million, and then 80% of the population is actually below 35 years, which means we've got quite a young population that is actually key in the development. And we have GDP growth of about 9%. And then it's an agro-based economy with 23% of the GDP dependent on agriculture. That's why you see that as I talk, there's a lot more emphasis in agro-processing, agriculture productivity, value chains, and all that. There are quite a number of exports: tobacco, tea, coffee, sugar. And then the emerging value chains are in oilseed, macadamia nuts, legumes, and USA Malawi's top 10 export market with 3.9% of total exports. In terms of specific trade with the US, you see that we have about maybe in the 2021, there are a lot more imports as well from the US compared to exports, about $109 million. And then, the imports are 41 million. And then this has been an improvement. There's been an improvement since 2020. The main exports are edible fruits, nuts, coffee, tea, sugar, and tobacco. And then the main imports, you note that they are pharmaceutical products, chemical products, plastic articles. These are the main imports. Why should people invest in Malawi? There are a number of reasons why I think people should decide to come to Malawi. One, there's low political risk, and then there's streamlined investment processes. We'll make sure that once you get to Malawi, everything is done within the Malawi Investment and Trade Center and within a very short period. As I'll explain just shortly about the one-stop service center. And they've got an enabling and constantly improving business environment. And then there's a lot of regional and international access in terms of markets. There's a vast unexplored business opportunities in Malawi. As somebody has just said when we're discussing, whenever you're traveling around Malawi, you see opportunities everywhere. There's low-cost labor force, and then we have attractive incentives for different types of investments that you can come in Malawi. The energy sector is also focused on renewable energy, green energy, and then the general incentives, which I talked about earlier on, you find that we've got different sectors, different priority sectors, general incentives for priority sectors. There's import duty and import VAT exemption. We've also got import duty and import VAT exemptions on importation of special purpose vehicles, losses carried forward up to 6 years. And we've got 100% capital allowance on cost and new and used machinery. The same thing, we've also got priority industry incentives, where the emphasis is on agro-processing and power generation. The investor can actually get up to 10 years tax holiday depending on the amount of investment and other factors. We've got also industrial rebate scheme in manufacturing, where import and excise duty exemptions of raw materials for designated manufacturing industries, but VAT is payable at 16%. Raw materials for manufacture of fertilizer, medicaments, pharmaceuticals are both import and VAT free under this scheme. In terms of the process, as I said earlier on, we've tried to streamline the process so that everything is done within Malawi Investment and Trade Center. So we've got institutions that actually operate to facilitate your investment within our offices at Malawi Investment and Trade Center. When you're dealing with incentives or you want to actually get whatever facilities from Malawi Revenue Authority, it's all done within Malawi Investment and Trade Center. We also got register of companies, but now it's actually, this has actually gone a step further inside that it can be done online. And it takes much fewer days. From wherever you are, you can actually register your company. We've got Department of Immigration within Malawi Investment and Trade Center, where if, let's say, you're coming in with an investment and it requires that you might need kind of maybe specialized personnel, you get the business resident permit or temporary permits for those particular experts. And we've got Ministry of Lands, we've got experts from Ministry of Lands that will actually facilitate your acquiring of the land should the investment need any land. So all that is done within Malawi Investment and Trade Center. And the minimum investment requirement is only $50,000 for most any type of investment. In terms of the investment opportunities, let me actually point out that they've got three private sector investment opportunities where we have promoters in the audience about these particular three investment opportunities, among many. As I indicated earlier on, actually Malawi is interested in quite a number of sectors: manufacturing, mining, agriculture and agro-processing, tourism, infrastructure development. But we singled out three investment opportunities which have already gone through the pre-feasibility study or feasibility study, and they are bankable. And we're looking for partners out there who can actually partner with the promoters of these investment opportunity. The first one is the Lake Malawi Aquaculture Project, where the promoter is looking for partners to finance fish production and processing for local and export markets. The resources required is about $3.3 million for outgrow cages, hatchery, feed storage, and processing plant. It is a financially viable project with an internal rate return of 34%. That's pretty high. And the payback period is about 4 years. Basically, the goal is to produce about 1,000 tons of farmed fish in the first year, and 4,000 tons within the 3 years. If you can contact MITC for that, and then we'll have the promoter. If you have any questions, the promoter will be able to respond to some of the issues on that particular project. The second project, which I wanted to actually pitch for investors out there, is the Chiweta Geothermal Project. In this particular project, the promoter is looking for partners to finance to construct geothermal power plant to produce 10 megawatts of electricity. The financial viability, it has an internal rate return of about 12.7%, and the feasibility studies have already been done, pre-feasibility studies. The resources needed are $76 million for the construction of the plant. The basic description of the project is drilling, setting up of fluid conveyance systems, and construction of geothermal power plant for production of 10 megawatts. It's located in the northern region of Malawi. And as I indicated, maybe you might want to know that power is quite key in different sectors. As we're improving on manufacturing, the power demand keeps on growing every time. So power is such a demand. Furthermore, we've got only maybe less than about 30% of the people who can access power. It means you've got opportunity for over 70% of population requiring power. The third project, which I wanted to share, where the promoter is looking for partnership, debt equity finance for processing waste to energy power. This is also an energy project by Gavis Energy, and the internal rate of return is about 40.25%. The required resources are about $132.3 million for the project development and CapEx. The payback period is about 9 years. The actual description of the project is to process urban municipal solid waste in the city of Blantyre to power. The electricity will be fed into the local power grid, servicing the geographical market segments. This is another great opportunity for investors out there. You can contact MITC to get in touch with the directors for this particular project. Apart from sharing these 3 projects that several investors here are looking for partnership, we've also got what we call the public investment opportunities. As earlier on, when the minister was presenting, she also talked about the requirement of public investment opportunities that are available in the country. And now after the cyclone Freddy, things have been worse, where we need a lot more opportunities in the public investment, as there was a lot of destruction by Cyclone Fred. For the public investment opportunities, I've got 2 projects which I wanted to share. These are one from the Ministry of Tourism, an integrated waterfront development project in Katabe. These funding resources needed for this particular project is it's about $16.2 million for CapEx. The private investors are welcome to partner with the government through PPP, private-public partnership arrangement, in the development of this particular waterfront. It's basically to upgrade the port and jetty that will also include tourist facilities such as curio shops, public toilets, photo-sitter cafeteria, and all that. Those who have been in Malawi know Nkatabe as a key area of tourism. And it's such a nice, it's just a nice town in the north. And this project has a net present value of about $29.45 million, and the internal rate of return is 14.1%. The expected revenue in the first year alone is about $4.27 million. And it will include, apart from just normal, it also includes socio-economic benefits through job opportunities, tax revenue, and levies for the country. And the second project among the public investment opportunities is a project on rehabilitation of the Limbe-Bangura railway section. This is being promoted by Ministry of Transport and Public Works, and the opportunity involves, the resources needed are $400 million US. The investment opportunity involves public-private partnership rehabilitation and the rehabilitation, realignment and reconstruction of Rimbi Marker Line and upgrading the bridges to 20-ton axle load from current 15-ton axle load. So the goal is basically to reduce transportation costs through facilitation model shift from road to rail and reduce the road maintenance. This is quite a good project, which different investors out there would actually need to consider. But before I go on to my last part of this project, where I want to talk about export trade opportunities, I want to just maybe enlighten people. They might be asking about what are the PPP, public-private partnership arrangements. The procedures, I've just shortly outlined some of the procedures. You can have solicited procedures or unsolicited process. So the solicited, you call for proposal, which is done by Public-Private Partnership Commission, and then there's pre-selection of bids and selection of successful bidder. Then you go through contract negotiation, and there's an award of the contract. So for any of those projects that are dealing with a public sector, you definitely have to go through, mostly you have to go through PPP Commission. And a solicited approach is the submission of expression of interest by the unsolicited bidder, and then the preliminary assessment of the expression of interest of the PPP proposed model, if the model is acceptable. And then PPPC will undertake a feasibility study. If the feasibility study is right, the bidder will be invited to bid for the public-private partnership. If not feasible, the bidder will be informed accordingly. So that's the process, but we can also, by contacting us or contacting us through contacting Public-Private Partnership Commission through us, you can also get a lot more information for any of the additional projects and any processes that you might want to question. My last part of the presentation talks about export trade opportunities. Part of the mandate of Malawi Investment and Trade Center is to look at the Malawian improvement of Malawian exports, apart from investment. In Malawi right now, we've got a lot of export potential, and we've got a lot of commodities that are actually needed out there. According to the recent study, the Malawi's untapped export potential is about $282 million, which basically means you can actually come and start operating in Malawi and easily export your products either within the region or outside or beyond the region. The current actually top export products include tobacco or seed, the natural or cultured pills, precious, semi-precious stones, that's in mining, sugar and sugar confectionery, coffee, tea, edible vegetables, edible fruits, nuts, pure citrus fruits or melons, residues, waste from food industries, railway or transport locomotive products, and iron and steel. These are some of the top exports. And then where do they go? I've actually listed top 10 export destinations. This was in 2020, which are Belgium, South Africa, United Kingdom, Kenya, United States of America, Zimbabwe, China, Tanzania, Egypt, and Netherlands. If you see, you can actually see, we go all over the world within the Africa region and actually beyond. In terms of some of the how you can contact us, you can reach out to us through our website, Malawi Investment and Trade Center. We're based in Lilongwe. We've got a satellite office in Blantyre. Feel free to reach out to us through the email provided. That's my email, or any other contacts which I'll actually pass on to you, so that you should be able to express any interest regarding investment in Malawi. And we look forward to meeting you and make your actually investment process coming into Malawi as seamless as possible. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much, CEO Paul, and thank you for giving us this vision of these possibilities. And I want to move very quickly to Chris Troy to present on access to finance, potentially available in Malawi from the Power Africa. Thank you for joining us, Chris. Take it away.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you for having me here. So I'm Chris Troy with Power Africa, and I want to talk a little bit broadly about Power Africa and who we are and what we do, and then I'll speak more directly to some of the work that we've done in Malawi. So Power Africa is really a partnership that comprises 12 U.S. government agencies all working together, with USAID being the coordinator for those other agencies. But each agency participates and works independently, but then we work together through what we call a Power Africa working group. So Power Africa is really like an open ecosystem partnership to ultimately really support the private sector in building out projects. It was found that when companies or governments try to develop some of these projects within Africa, develop energy projects, there's a huge amount of capital that is required, and that cost of capital for many countries is somewhat prohibitive. So private sector investment is really required. And so we then work within this partnership model to connect with our development partners, which include, say like AFDB, World Bank, IFC, governments of, say, South Korea, Japan, Sweden, Norway, Canada. Our newest partner is a country of Denmark, and we work with say Denmark and an example like that to try to increase investments into energy projects. So that means we're working together to try to provide like the enabling environment, where we're trying to work with investors and developers to find out what the barriers are to investment, and then get some of these issues cleared out of the way, or really mitigated, so that an opportunity becomes a lot more bankable. So that means that investors will actually consider it. So we have in our partnership also over 170 private sector companies that we work with to support. And to be clear, what Power Africa is not is we don't provide financing or grants. Typically, there might be some grants that might be provided from our partner agencies, like, for example, U.S. Trade and Development Agency can provide feasibility study grants or help with environmental and social impact assessments, ESIAs. And so to that end, we can work on the front end to try to de-risk some of these projects. So then when projects are sort of presented to us, we are then working on the ground with our transaction advisors. These are energy experts that are working out in the field. So we have several major programs. The one that's most relevant to Malawi, of course, is our Southern Africa Energy Program. And this is a program that is based within Pretoria, South Africa. However, it covers the region, of course. And we are then working in countries like Malawi to figure out how to assist on projects. Part of the partnership also includes the Millennium Challenge Corporation. And the Millennium Challenge Corporation, they're able to come in, as we say, big, provide a huge amount of technical assistance and capital. So they had an energy focus between 2013 and 2018 through their compact with Malawi, where they made big investments, given that at the time, I think only 9% of Malawians and less than 1% of the country's rural population had access to electricity. So through large-scale investments, which really focus on intensive policy and institutional reforms coupled with infrastructure investment, worked to really fundamentally transform Malawi's power sector and then secure the foundation for these private sector investments that we're getting at. So some of the other work that we'd done in there was looking at the Inkula hydropower plant, and then some other broad enabling environment reforms, supported ESCOM to launch competitive procurement, and then there was tariff reform sub-activity, so working to help get the tariff increased so you get closer to having cost-reflective tariffs, because obviously with these projects, if you don't have cost-reflective tariffs, you don't have a financially sound project, then investors and developers can't come in and get a return. So it becomes nearly impossible to do some projects without having really financially sound projects. So that's sort of like a broad overview. Then I want to discuss some of the work that we did really directly with one of our close partners. It's actually a Canadian company, which provides a great example of the fact that Power Africa is not just for US companies. And again, it's this broad partnership. So we worked with JCM to first come in to Malawi and develop the first solar IPP project, Salima. And so we worked very hard with a team on the ground there, with our embassy team, and provided support to not just JCM, but some of the other companies that were there. So Infraco Africa, which is part of the Private Infrastructure Development Group, PIDGE. And then we came in to help again, with like the feasibility study from like USTDA. They provided, I think, a grant of $700,000 for that. And the other stakeholders and came in, like Innovate UK, Energy Catalyst provide 2.9 million, really switching not just from the Salima but to Golomoti, Malawi. This is the first battery energy storage system, BESS, which was a 20 megawatt solar PV power plant plus a 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt hour lithium ion battery. Now, why was this critical to do? Many grids in the region, so regionally, including Malawi, don't have really modern grids, and it's difficult to bring on intermittent sources of power, such as solar or wind. And it's obviously necessary to keep the grid balanced and voltage regulated, and all the technical aspects. And so with Salima, it was not so easy to have the grid properly managed. So we supported this BESS project, this Golomoti solar project, to make the grid better balanced. So when you have baseload power that comes on, such as hydropower or natural gas, or as the speaker prior noted, there's a geothermal project. We are supporting all of these projects, all technologies typically. Certainly not supporting development of coal. So Power Africa definitely has a bias towards renewables. It's a lot easier to get our partners on board and supporting these projects with us through collaboration. So for certain, there are many collaborators we work with that will only support renewables, so that would not include natural gas. But there are, certain areas where we can try to figure out how to coalesce together a partnership of sorts, so we can provide the right technical support that is needed. So for interested developers and investors that have a viable project, Power Africa is there to help provide the technical assistance needed. And many have noted that sometimes it seems like our technical assistance and support is really biased for the government. And in many cases, this is true. Why? Because we assume that the investors and developers are seasoned and experienced, and they really know their way around. However, when you have the very first solar project that's grid scale solar project getting built, often the procurement officials are not experienced in developing something of that nature. So our technical experts are there then to support the work that needs to be done internally to accept and push a project forward so that it can eventually get signed off on. And that can include support for the tender process, negotiations for the power purchase agreement, the PPA, and then getting all the way through to financial close. So our transaction advisors can help through the process. Broadly speaking, some of our transaction advisors might be working closely with a government energy ministry to look at the overall resource planning. So it can really be from start to finish how Power Africa can be involved in providing that technical assistance. So again, for experienced developers and investors that have credible projects, please do reach out to me or to Power Africa. You could also reach out to me through Jeremy Faber, my colleague who's at Prosper Africa, and we can try to get you connected with some of our technical experts. Over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you. I know we had a small technical glitch there, but I'm just so thrilled to hear the way that Power Africa has been connecting with other countries, with companies, but with our partners there on the ground, and especially your work in Malawi. So it's very inspiring for us to get this picture. And I can see in the chat, lots of people have ideas and questions, and this is going to be an important beginning for a new era, a new chapter, a new way for us to be partnering together. We have another private sector story, specifically and private sector expert from Malawi, to talk about the business environment there from a private sector perspective. Mahesh Kotesha, are you there? Can you take the microphone?
Yes, I am here, and I hope you can all hear me.
Very well, very well.
Sorry, I'm rushing in from Abu Dhabi in order to attend this particular presentation, so I'm a bit rushed, but please bear with me. I'm coming through. Greetings to Honorable Nancy Tambo, my boss, Honorable Simplex Titoya, my dear friend, Her Excellency Esme Chombo in New York, and all other distinguished participants. Basically, I come to you as a spokesman for the private sector. But prior to that, I would just like to highlight that His Excellency, President Lazarus Chakwera, has appointed me an honorable trade envoy of Malawi to India and South Asia, with a specific function to bring in investment into Malawi. And I'm so happy that I can participate today and share some of my private sector experience with yourselves. As far as we are concerned in terms of the private sector, I would like to first say to you that Malawi is truly the warm heart of Africa, a peaceful warm heart of Africa. We have a good, reliable workforce and a very upcoming, educated young generation who are English speaking. Now, this in itself means a lot, because if people are going to look at investing into Malawi, they're coming in with a big advantage with this few important points I have mentioned. Now, the other way I can relate to is that from my own experience, we are a third generation, a family-owned business, which employs 150 people. We're into manufacturing of furniture, we're in the power sector, as well as now in the construction and finishing sector. So if we have grown, and our company started in 56, incorporated in 1966, and this is what we have achieved. So I believe that if people come to invest in Malawi, besides what my colleagues have spoken so highly about, agriculture, mining, tourism, where there's a lot happening, and if there's anything which I can highlight, I'm quite happy to in the short time I'm given on this. But as far as general business is concerned in Malawi, I'd like to share with you that we've had peaceful country, no wars, no issues, no riots. You don't hear about this sort of issues in Malawi at all. I'm 71 years old today. I've born and grown up in Malawi, and I've never experienced anything like this. So I believe that any investor wanting to come into Malawi will be truly taking the right decision and will be welcome. And our experience shares very clearly that you can be in other businesses, you can be into specialized businesses. There's opportunity for people to set up small hotels along the lake shore. There are quite a few, but it now needs to go up in terms of the quality. There's also things like small farming opportunities. I was recently in India, where they've launched millet as one of the prime crops in view of climate change. And I believe that we can take a leaf from India's page, whereby we could start growing more millet. I know that some millet is grown in Malawi, but not enough. Also, I've noticed that Malawi mangoes have done extremely well in India. Now, when I was meeting other potential investors there, they're all willing to come to Malawi and look at the opportunity of growing mangoes and exporting to India. However, they felt that if there are people within Malawi who can take this initiative, they're willing to support on technical and even financial basis. So if you look at where the private sector is coming from, it's got its own role. We have support, obviously, the Ministry of Trade, the PS has mentioned that, they have various facilities being granted to people. There's also opportunities being highlighted to people. But the private sector in Malawi has been quite resilient. We've been through many, many issues. The Forex issue has been a regular issue, but we all trade. We all continue, and things happen, things stick. So this is where the private sector is coming from. And I could give you a lot of information. In fact, I'll put it this way. My door is open. If anyone wants to know what can you do in Malawi and how, I've got time and energy to give you all the support you require. And like I said, my colleagues have spoken very eloquently. They've outlined the superb opportunities, right from power to mining, tourism. And I think there's much, much more opportunity. As I said, we are a very peaceful country. People like us, I'm now third generation and continue, and I see us growing into a major organization going forward. So this is where we are coming from. And I believe that if there's any questions, anything you'd like me to highlight, I'm quite happy to give you a few moments. So I've been given 10 minutes.
Thank you so much. And also happy birthday. And thank you for taking time from your work there in Abu Dhabi. But it's very exciting that your government has you focusing on the whole region. And this is a great way for us to be building a worldwide network, because it takes us all to make these changes happen. I'm wondering, I know I can see that there's some questions in the chat room, but I'm wondering if anyone wants to send a very direct question. I have one for you, which is, sure. What do you think you're learning in talking to the private sector in India and other parts of Asia and Abu Dhabi that would help strengthen? Are there three-cornered trade deals, three-cornered investment deals that you think make sense for the future?
Yes, absolutely, because the UAE has got a role to play as a conduit. There are people from the Indian subcontinent who are settled in UAE, and they understand Africa better than maybe the local Arab population here. So that's one connect. The other one is from India, where a lot of Indian companies have set up their distribution networks out of the UAE, particularly Dubai, in terms of re-export, which previously was Hong Kong. If you recall, we all used to get all our goods from Hong Kong in the old days. Now, Dubai has stepped into that little slot. So I think, yes, there's going to be, in fact, I went to Abu Dhabi to look at the opportunity of approaching the government there for bilateral relationships. I did it on my own initiative as an honorary trade envoy, as I'm fairly well connected here. So I believe that, yes, there's a serious opportunity to look at it on a three-way basis.
This is really good news. I'm seeing that people were wondering about direct contact for you. Can you put that into the chat room? I don't know if you have access to it there.
Yeah, I will do that. I'll send you my email details, and people are happy to contact me, and I'll give them all the support they require, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a specific question that you want to put right there into the chat? I do have one more question. What's your family company? What's the product or service of your company?
The company's name Hisco Limited. As I mentioned, that we set up in '56. My late father set it up, and I took over, and my son is now taken over. So he's third generation, and we basically are a major player in the game we are in. We're into furniture, office furniture, and other similar items, as well as power. We're one of the largest suppliers of secondary power into Malawi in view of the challenges we have got. So that's where Hisco Limited comes from. And recently we also entered the construction domain, basically, which has been monopolized by a few large overseas companies. So we thought we'd look at that opportunity also.
Yeah. Thank you. It's thrilling just to hear these stories, but of course, I think Dubai with the Expo and with COP coming up this year, and Abu Dhabi being the sort of home base and center for so many things, this logistical connection point that you were saying was in Hong Kong, now maybe migrated in this way, and that vision that this connectivity part of the world on goods and services is something that Malawi has a huge advantage in. It's really important for us to underline while we are here today. And the person that I've heard about this the most about is Jeremy Faber, who is one of our deep contacts for private sector engagement over there at Prosper Africa. Jeremy, can you pick up this wonderful presentation about the private sector and take us home?
I will certainly try. Thank you, Mark. This has been quite the webinar this morning. Great energy in the room and some outstanding guests. Thank you so much to our Honorable Ambassador and to the ministers who were able to provide some remarks at the top. Thanks also to the Malawi Investment Trade Center, who we have been working with closely. My name is Jeremy Faber. I'm with Prosper Africa. This is a White House initiative to increase trade and investment between the United States and countries in Africa. We see Malawi as a very critical country, and I'm proud to say that we have ongoing fantastic relations between our respective units focused on two-way trade and investment. I know that largely the topic this morning has been about investment and about some investable projects and how to mobilize capital into Malawi for some of these projects. But I did just want to take a second to acknowledge how important trade is to the scenario. We did see some slides earlier about some of the critical products that are being imported into Malawi, as well as some of the exports that we see. And what we see at Prosper Africa in many cases is that exports will drive investments. We have recently launched a program, which I'm really excited to talk about. That's why I'm kind of jumping right into it, a buyer-supplier network. It's only been up for about 6 weeks now. We're just getting legs underneath it, but we do have a goal within the next 12 months to increase exports from Africa to the US by over $200 million. and that is from across the continent, but we do see a critical role that Malawi can play in things like coffee and tea and other agriculture products, as well as some finished products. And why trade can lead to investment is because we see supply chains tightening up their belts across the world, and really want to acknowledge the role of companies going and looking to save themselves some money, save themselves some time by investing in processing facilities, manufacturing facilities in Malawi, so that instead of raw materials being exported, we can actually export some finished products. So I have a team on standby through the Africa Trade and Investment Program, which is a partnership between USAID and Prosper Africa, with Prosper Africa dedicated funding, specific to creating a network of suppliers from Malawi with a group of interested buyers in the US. We have buyers across sectors. Agriculture is a very strong one. And in the verticals there, many buyers looking for supply of Malawian products right today. So if you are a Malawian producer, and I saw a number of you in the chat and appreciate all of that, I would encourage you to reach out to me. Basil has my contact information, as we have been working with Minnesota Africans United for many years and are very proud of this partnership that we have forged with them. We'll also be supporting a trade mission to Malawi to bring U.S. companies, hopefully buyers, and potentially exporters as well, to Malawi to sign contracts to make business happen. In advance of that, I encourage everyone again to reach out to me to visit our website, prosperafrica.gov, where you can see a number of tools and resources and services that the federal government has made available for two-way trade and investment. My colleague, Chris Troy, who I've known for many years, provided some awesome information about the energy sector. As we talk about investing in processing and manufacturing facilities, clearly a reliable supply of electricity to support those enterprises is where it all starts. So we know that the foundation that's been laid and the access that's been provided through some of the support at Power Africa works very closely with the back end, as we see companies looking at statistics and data that is published on our respective websites across ITA, the International Trade Administration, through the Department of Commerce. All the statistics that we see about increasing electrification rates, the reliability of electricity, can only drive interested companies and investors to make those next moves into Malawi. And as a former resident of Zambia who visited Malawi many times, it's near and dear to my heart. I truly believe in the potential. I think everyone across my organization believes in the potential of Malawi and just really treasures our relationships with the business community as well as with the government. And so, we can be a conduit to the Malawi Investment and Trade Center. We can be a conduit to government officials there. During trade missions, we, through Prosper Africa, can make services through the U.S. Embassy that's in the Longway available to everyone who is visiting. If you're a U.S. company and you're looking to go into Malawi, please know that we have tons of tools and services to support your business: grants, technical assistance, financing, and then these trade missions that I'm really excited about that'll be happening later this year. We'll get you landed, get you introduced to the embassy, and make sure everyone there that's on the ground in the field supports you, is aware of your business, and can help you get those right meetings and ultimately, hopefully, get some contracts signed. At the end of the day, Prosper Africa is really about increasing substantially trade and investment between the United States and Malawi and a number of other countries across Africa. And we only do that by looking at the data. So we will look back and say we were successful. If we can say next year, we've increased the baseline. Looking at the numbers, I think everyone can recognize there's a huge opportunity here. I don't get depressed. I'm a very optimistic person. And most of the folks on my side that we work with are optimistic and have been saying for quite some time, if you're a business and you're not looking at Africa, you're not looking at your business. I think I can end there, make myself available for any questions, and just know that through our website, prosperafrica.gov, we have a series of trade investment advisors standing ready to assist you to navigate the U.S. government's tools in the space and to connect you to some awesome contractors that we've hired to do some really great work. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Basil. Thank you, everyone in the government of Malawi, for having me today.
Jeremy, you've been such a terrific partner for us and also for our colleagues in Africa and all over. And you're always thinking about how we can jump up our game, how we can elevate what we're doing. And it's exciting to know there's this new initiative and metrics. So here's my question to kick off a couple questions. Is there a way that you could simply sort of have a little dashboard where we could all see how we're doing collectively on that significant jumping up you're working on?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. After the Africa Leaders Summit really highlighted, how important Africa is to the United States, especially in this current administration, we have really gone back to the grindstone, before the new year, and have worked very hard over the last 3 months to develop an internal tracking dashboard. We are working on figuring out how to make that more publicly available. Obviously, our internal tracking has a lot of, commercial confidential information in it. But I was just looking through that this morning, Mark, and you'll be very pleased to hear we're tracking over $2 billion worth of projects between the US and Malawi right now. Very exciting things in ag tech, very exciting things in health tech. Malawi is becoming increasingly connected and digitally savvy, and we do see a huge future for Malawi in the region as a leader in things that are related to tech, related to digital services. So yeah, just I knew that there was a lot going on, but I was actually shocked to see that number was over $2 billion, and it's just so encouraging.
Well, so that's this really important news for all of us because it encourages us. There's a kind of an interesting question that's come that I'd like to put to not just you, Jeremy, but to everyone who's on our panel here to get your reaction, because I think it's something that probably on the minds of people who are participating. We've got 150 or so people watching. It says, it's from ED, it says, we also have to make sure that these business relationships are not just exploitative, but there's a recognition of the value of labor and products, and that it's not right to pay Malawians poverty wages as many people work for years and stay poor generation after generation. So I guess it's that fundamental question about how do we make sure that we're moving into a new way, a new generation. The numbers are important. That's one way we measure. But what about that question? And this is really for anyone up here on the panel to jump in, because I think we all had shared the value of this question. What are you thinking?
If I could just really quickly, Mark, all the projects that we're supporting, it's a mandate. I mean, we don't go into the project saying, oh, business, go make money. Really, there is an aspect of this, which is what we call local capacity, enabling development. So every project that we're supporting will have local partners in Malawi, or we'll have job training as part of it, or job creation as one of the targets locally in Malawi. And we know that by uplifting the local workers there, it's good for the whole country, and it lifts everyone up together alongside us. So I will say that, we recognize that there has been a history of exploitative businesses across Africa for centuries, and through our mandates, we are very clearly focused on supporting projects that have a partnership element to it. We heard President Biden say that over and over again. It's about partnership. It's not about going and extracting raw materials. That's why I say we're looking at ways to help develop manufacturing facilities for that value addition to agricultural products, for example, and looking at tech as a way to really train the youth of Malawi in a very viable skill that's going to be so important in the next 30, 40 years. Thanks.
Great. Paul, Mashish, how do you see this from the Malawi side? Anybody else want to jump in on this particular question? We're getting some really great participation over in the chat room. So lots of folks are thinking about some of these particular topics. And I am very aware at the local level inside the United States that we've got policies and regulations that mandate things like fair wages and all of those. I mean, we know that there are policies that can be put in place that can address some of these historic conditions or historic issues. But it's this may be part of how that discussion goes when we really think about two-way streets and investment. Any other questions? I know that one of the notes early up in the chat was about the importance of education. And it was a discussion about, of course, equality, girls and boys education, but also what you can see globally about the need to, in terms of higher education of all kinds, whether it's technical or scientific or whatever it is. One of the things that we are very proud of in Minnesota, but also something that's really part of our future, is higher education. We have a number of people observing today from our different colleges. One of our major electrical power developers from here in Minnesota got his PhD in Nairobi and is one of the really connectors. Jeremy, you were in Zambia. Any thoughts about how higher education, technical training, our young people like to globalize and be around and work and learn and do things, get married and fall in love and all of that. There is certainly the clear definition of Minnesota Africans United as the diaspora here in Minnesota, 300,000 or 400,000, connecting directly with partners and others back on the continent. Where does education fit into this picture for all of you? Anybody comment if you have ideas about that question? I see in the chat some of the Malawians living in Minnesota are connecting to some of the university people who've chatted. So that's an important thing, making sure we are connecting when we're next door neighbors. Well, this has been the opportunity that so many people have worked hard to make today come together. The staff and the leadership in the embassy in Washington, but also those small conversations during the U.S.-Africa Leadership Summit and all the pieces of weaving together the opportunities and the information to then help people say, let's take the next steps. COVID taught us that Zooming was one way to learn and find out and to make friends and to make plans. But we also know from just the last few trade missions, whether they were in East Africa or West Africa, but the trade mission coming up will be very important as a person-to-person opportunity, but we got a lot of work to do between now and then. And that kind of work, some of it is, of course, on the ground, some of it is through correspondence, some of it is working with the technical assistance that perhaps Prosper Africa or Power Africa can provide, or the trade center there. But it also is clearly the case that we are needing to encourage each other by sharing the success stories, need to encourage each other by seeing the opportunities and some of the things that we often perhaps don't think deeply about, but things like how do we take the fact that both in Minnesota and Malawi, we love our lakes. It partly defines who we are. And so that's a shared kind of value that has other implications and has things that we can be doing more of and thinking about. I want to invite our really good friend and really the woman who's helped put this whole process together, Her Excellency Ambassador Chombo to give us some closing comments. She's been our Uber leader, helping us to navigate to get to today, and she'll be really critical in taking today, turning the words and the inspiration into action, into contracts, into deals, into better lives for our generation and for generations to come. Your Excellency, I'm handing the floor to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rich. And wow, what a wonderful, wonderful way to spend this morning. It has been very, very enriching. It's been very enlightful. And I want to thank all the presenters, all the panelists for the presentations that they have made. There are a lot of questions in the box. I'm sure those will be answered, but maybe one that I can take on is the one on education. There is a great need for our students, our young ones, to enhance their education. I believe that digitization is coming as a vessel, as a power unit that can help to enhance development and growth. So we need someone maybe that can take that into Malawi and that we learn how to use digitalization to improve the economic growth of Malawi. Just briefly, I would like to touch on that. But just to say that what has been shared in here is a wealth of information that will move any person who would like to invest in Malawi to do so. There are very, very powerful points that have been raised by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Trade, Secretary of Trade, and even Mr. Paul Kwengwere. What it all adds up is that Malawi is ready. It has been ready for more than a decade for the investors to come in. The playing field has been made level. There's openness. There are projects that have already been looked at and assessed, ready to go. What we are just waiting for are the people that can take up this challenge and say, I'm going into Malawi to invest. And these are not the only projects. You may find that when you get into the country, you find more projects than what have been presented. I'm sure that if we had more time, Mr. Kwengwere would have given us more projects that are viable, that are bankable. What we are waiting for now is to see that connection, that connectivity. We want to see things moving on the ground. And as I said at the beginning, Malawi Embassy is here to help with that connectivity. We are here to make sure that this is going to happen. There are things that need to be worked at. There are incentives. I liked the idea of the 10-year tax-free period. I am very, very sure that this makes anyone to say, I can invest. Mr. Kotesha, thank you so much for the presentation that you've made. As someone who is already there in Malawi and doing business and an envoy of the president, sure, we are saying Malawi is ready for you. Malawi is ripe. And I am so excited with what Jeremy has just told us. 2 billion worth of investment ready for any takers. What else are we going to look for? I know there are some challenges on maybe quality, on quantities, but we need to start working together. We need holding hands, and we need to see that what we are being offered does not go down the drain. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be ready to sign documentation that is required, Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Trade, and the one-stop center will service you as you go into Malawi with the documentation that you require. May I encourage the business people, both from the United States of America as Americans and also the diaspora. Any questions that you have, we are here to respond. We are here to provide them. We are here to make sure that this webinar does not end up in a webinar per se, but it ends up in something that is concrete, something that will see Malawi turning into the economic hub that it has the potential. I can even say that Malawi has unlimited, untapped resources that are just waiting for the right investors to go in and do that which is needed. There's railroad, there's aviation, there's all sorts of expositions that we have heard that, are saying, yes, we can invest in Malawi. Again, just to thank you all. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for, coordinating this. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Basil, for the meetings that we've been having. We'll continue to have them. And thank you, Chris, for that, helping us to understand what is happening and how we can link on with Power Africa. Thank you, Honorable Ministers of Foreign Affairs, of Trade. Thank you to all of you, the panelists that have made their presentations, and thank you for everyone who has joined. Thank you for the exchanges that have been made. Powerful. We are here as Malawians to see that Malawi does not remain the same. With all these potentials, Malawi can change. Thank you so much, and God bless Malawi, God bless America, and God bless each one of us for taking part in this very powerful webinar. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Now it is my time to thank you so much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Chombo, for this amazing remarks. It's so much great, so much significant and great honor to have you being the mother of the Malawians here in the United States of America. We want to make sure that this conversation doesn't really end here. Number one, we are going to make sure that we launch everyone who is in the United States or other part of the world. There's a Malawian, it's an African diaspora willing to do business in the United States of America should be now open to start applying to join our trade mission to Malawi in October. That process begins right now. And there was another question that Ambassador mentioned, the question about education. We here as Minnesota Africans United and formerly serving on the board of the third largest system of higher education in the United States of America, the Minnesota State Board of Trustees. That system is here, and we are here as African diaspora. We are here as the African organization that will help facilitate any accreditation with universities in Malawi and universities here in the United States of America, or more particularly in Minnesota. We are also able to help facilitate access to all high quality education for Malawian students. Any Malawian student that want to study in our Minnesota University system, we are really here. We have members, champions, economics that are actually working in our system, our fans of Malawi, our friends of Malawians. They are all part of this initiative. This conversation cannot work if we don't follow up. The follow-up is the ask, and the follow-up is what we are doing. And Malawi has actually opened their doors for business opportunity. We really want to really thank Ambassador for really facilitating this, for making life easier, for making things work. And now it is not only love for the Ambassador, but for the businesses that want to do business. We have heard from Prosper Africa. They are ready to support this trade mission, to lead US businesses willing to do business in Malawi, to help support African diaspora businesses. But we are also looking at our Expo 2027 as a pathway for all these events to happen. We need to all come together to support and talk to our foreign ministers, our ministers of trade, our delegates in Paris, our delegates in the United States. Join us in our meetings in New York with all the African envoys in Washington, D.C., and share how it is important to rally all the African diaspora who have given everything to the U.S. government to prosper, take back those skills to their home country. That is what we all stand to offer and pay back to the continent and the country that has given us everything. It is my time now to really thank Trocon, our technology person who has been working with us Tandy, who has put together this webinar. I've been communicating with me, Mark, and every other person. It's not easy to put this kind of webinar together. We really want to really thank you, Tandy, to say you are the true heritage of an African diaspora, working hard every day to make sure that doing business in the continent is very, very easy. Having the keys and opening the doors, leaving it wide open for every African diaspora that really wants to do business in Malawi. This is just the beginning of this conversation. And I know we are going to forge a new energy, a new partnership that we will take to take this business to the next level. Join us in every day, anytime. We are available by email, we're available on WhatsApp or whatever forms of communication to make sure that we don't only talk, it doesn't only end in our lips, but action. Jobs are created, people are being trained, people are being relieved from poverty. And Mark, thank you so much for the wonderful moderation. Your Excellencies, we know that this was not an easy time, that everyone loved your family, your job, the fight for the Malawians. We are so appreciative. Thank you so much for the encouragement. And Mr. Trokon, I think it is time for you now to play the closing video. Thank you all.
My name is Temigiwa Toboso. I'm the founder and CEO of LifeBank. LifeBank is a supply chain company operating in 3 countries in Africa. We deliver critical resources, critical commodities like blood, oxygen, vaccines, the works, to busy hospitals in emerging markets. We're raising a round that would allow us to expand our business even more, expand what we're currently doing. And by being listed at the Prosper Africa deal room, we think that we'll have a capacity to meet the right investor. I like to think of myself as having this dual, place in the world. I'm Nigerian, basically African and American. And I think for me, what I see is opportunity to, drive impact in people's lives on the continent, the opportunity to, invest and actually have returns. Right? I think for me, what is really incredible about operating in Africa is that, it's like greenfield, right? There's so many opportunities here on the continent to do 2 critical things. For me, it is impact, actually having impact on human life, impact that you can count, that you can see. And more importantly, and maybe equally important, is getting that return. And the size of the continent makes this actually possible.